had been raised Lutheran, baptized as a baby in a Lutheran church. Then we switched to Mennonite for several years. When I was about 12, our family switched over to the Methodist Church in Morton, Illinois. And when I was 16, I got saved and was faced with the question, okay, which church? And as a sophomore in high school, one of my best friends was Tim Smith, who later became a mailman for Peoria, and I'd love to get hold of Tim Smith, except there's 4 million of them in America. But if anybody can find Tim, tell him to write me, and love to talk to Tim. Tim ended up, he'd been a Christian for years, and he'd been trying to witness to me. He went to Grace Presbyterian Church in Peoria, Illinois, and Tim, when he found out I had accepted Christ, took me under his wing and began to disciple me, and we became very close friends. Had a wonderful time for all through high school. Anyway, Tim said, hey, Kent, let's double date, and we'll go out to the cabin on the lake that your dad has, and we can go boating and roast marshmallows and talk about the Bible. We can do some Bible study. So he invited a girl named Charlotte at our church, the only girl in our high school of 2000 that always wore dresses. And some people thought that was a little strange, and I didn't know her at all. I don't think I'd ever talked to her. Anyway, and I invited a girl named Kathy, and so we went out, had a double date, and had marshmallows and talked about the Bible. And Charlotte invited me to her church, and I said, oh, what kind of church is it? Keep in mind, I'm a brand new Christian, saved maybe for a couple of weeks or a month, I don't know. And she said, I go to a Baptist church. Well, I don't think I had ever even heard of a Baptist church until that moment. I'm 16 years old. I said, oh, what is that? She said, oh, why don't you come? I think you'd enjoy it. So anyway, I ended up going with Tim's date that next couple days later, whenever it was, Wednesday night or Sunday, I don't remember, to her visit Bethel Baptist Church in Pekin, Illinois. And as far as I know, that was the first time in my life I'd ever been to a Baptist church or ever heard of one. And the preacher banged on the pulpit. I had never seen that before. And he would raise his voice, and the Bible is the Word of God, and if you're not saved, you're going to hell. And, hellfire, damnation, Baptist preaching, very new to me, coming from my Methodist church where we had 2 pulpits. They had one pulpit where they would preach from, and then one pulpit where they would read the Bible from. And it took me years to figure out why. It's because what they're reading in the one pulpit in the Bible is so far from what they're...
This call is from San Diego County Sheriff's Office.
So far from what they're saying in the other pulpit, they had to separate them. At least in our very liberal church at the time, extremely liberal. I don't know if it still is or not. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so that led to me going to this Baptist church, and I fell in love with it. I was learning so much Bible. I mean, every sermon, it was, whoa, I'd leave with my head spinning. I didn't know that. And so my parents got concerned that, Kent, we're excited you're a Christian, but we're a little concerned you're going overboard in this, fundamental Baptist movement. Would you go with us to other churches for a while? So for several months, we traveled around, visited all kinds of other churches. Went to many different kinds. East Peoria, Morton, Peoria. After a while, they said, okay, now, which one do you want to go to? I said, I want to go back to that Baptist church. I learned more Bible there in 1 week than I learned in a year at these other places. So I ended up going. I didn't know why. I didn't know what they believed. I just knew I liked what I was being fed. And so I have since that time studied most of the other major religions, and I classify them into 4 basic categories. There are the Baptists, which base their teaching just simply, what does the Bible say, nothing else. We don't care what the Pope says. We don't care what Grandpa says. What does the book say? Now, there are some really bad Baptist churches, and there are some really good Baptist churches. So just that name doesn't mean a thing. You better check it out individually. Okay. Then you have the Catholic churches, which is about 4 or 5 different flavors of those, but the Roman Catholic is by far the best known. They really started in 318 AD with Constantine, and they certainly teach that your works save you or the priest save you, and there would be many things about that whole religion I would disagree with, according to the Bible. About the year 1500, Martin Luther said, I protest, you're doing it wrong, and he led a bunch out of the Catholic Church and started the Protestant churches, and they've split into 30 flavors. The Presbyterians, the Lutherans, the Methodists, etc. Then in the 1800s, there was kind of a new phenomenon came on the scene with various cults, like the Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, the Foursquare Gospel, and there are quite a number of those that would teach, I think, some pretty screwball things in some areas. So I try to lump it, Christians, all the churches into those 4 main groups: Baptist, Catholic, Protestant, and cult. I think most would probably fit under one of those. Of course, every group thinks they're right and everybody else is wrong. That is standard, okay? They all think they're right. And I don't care what the name is on it, couldn't care less. I want to know what is the doctrine, what do they teach. So since I've been preaching now, since 1990 or so, traveling, speaking on dinosaurs and creation in the Bible, I have been to many different kinds of churches, and I have gotten to meet many different pastors. And I'm there to teach on creation. I'm not there to argue their particular doctrine. So we don't often get into the things we differ on. But I still, to this day, cannot find any group closer to what I think the Bible teaches than the independent Baptist churches as a general rule. Though there are some duds in that bunch also. Okay, hope that answers the question. I would check it out separately. Find out, ask the pastor, what do you believe on this doctrine? What do you believe here? What do you believe here? Check it out. Wouldn't you do that with a car? What kind of motor does it have? What kind of transmission? You know, wouldn't you do that with a house? Does it have a bathroom? Does it have a laundry room? You know, yeah, of course you check things out. Check out what they believe. Okay.
All right. No, very, very good. Thank you, Pastor Owen. I got to say that's one of the most thorough answers I've ever heard to the question of which church should I consider I've ever heard. So very good. This next series of questions is a series of questions, and here goes. It comes in from Alan, and Alan writes, is this next election the nail in the coffin for the United States? Does Dr. Hovind know or believe in the conspiracy about the Bohemian Grove? And if so, are there videos where I can see Dr. Hovind discuss this topic? And his last question is, should Christians start to get out of America now before it's too late? And if so, where should we go?
Boy, that's a great question. If we get out, where do you go? The whole world is falling apart. Is this next election the nail in the coffin? I don't know how to answer that one, other than maybe to raise a few simple questions. Barack Obama is the president of what? Exactly what is he the president of? My very limited research on this has led me to discover and believe firmly that there are at least 7 different organizations claiming the title United States. Exactly what is United States? That would be something Paul Hansen should probably answer, but there's several corporations started over the years under the name United States of America. So is he the president? Are we talking about the original United States from 1789 with the Constitution? Is that the United States, or is it one of these corporations started later? That's a topic I'm very interested in, but I am by no means an expert, and I am very confused, and I don't know. For instance, the United States attorneys that are coming after me. Which United States do they represent? I don't know the answer. I would like to know. I certainly don't want to break any laws that apply to me, and I don't think I have. But what is exactly this next? Who are they voting for? And who gets to vote? You have to be a United States citizen. Well, exactly what is that? Maybe you can do some research on this, brother, but someone told me that it says to become a United States citizen, it is by oath and no other. The only way to become a U.S. citizen, I have heard, is to take an oath like foreigners do when they come in and they take their ceremony and they go do that oath. Well, I never did that. So are you a U.S. citizen? Am I a U.S. citizen? I don't understand what they mean by those words, believe it or not. I mean, it sounds simple. It sounds crazy. Like, what do you mean? Of course you are. You're born here. Well, which United States are you talking about? I don't know. So I don't know what this election is about. Maybe this is a corporate board election and has nothing to do with the real United States from 1789 and the Constitution. So as far as the nail in the coffin, I think where America's in real serious shape. We probably owe more money than the whole world could be sold for if we could find a buyer. And so I think we are completely broke and bankrupt and working on credit. It'd be like if you gave if you got a new credit card every month and could max it out, and you'd go around buying stuff and you would feel euphoric. Wow, this is great. I can buy a new car, buy a new house anytime I want, buy new furniture. Yeah, but you're going further and further in debt. Sometime, somewhere, it's going to come caving in on you. And we are way beyond the point where it should have caved in. We're being kept alive with artificial means here, I think. So I can't answer the question. So I think America is in much worse trouble than they realize. And when it hits, it's going to hit hard. And as far as leaving, I don't know where else you'd go. The whole world's in trouble. intentionally. It's all part of the International Monetary Fund and the bankers and the Bilderbergers and Rothschilds, and that's a battle for somebody else to fight. But I think there's a lot to that. There certainly have been people for several centuries who have, like the Illuminati, etc., they have plans to rule the world, and they are going to do it by destroying the finances and making everybody be their debtor. That's what Pharaoh did in Egypt with Joseph. Everybody went in debt. They sold their houses, sold their land, sold their souls to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said, okay, now you're my slave. There are people who want a one-world government with them in charge and everybody else being rice farmers for them. That's what they want, and they're working toward it, and they're probably going to succeed short term. That seems to be what's clearly taught in the book of Daniel and Revelation, so I don't think we should panic over it. Just win souls. Nothing else is going to matter in 100 years. Go win souls. Okay. Sorry, I don't know the answer to the question. I'm interested in it, but it's about as far as I can go on that one. Okay?
No, very, very good. Thank you, Pastor Hovind. The next question comes in from Jesse, and Jesse writes, it's a very interesting question, although he says, is it possible that in Genesis 28, Jacob's vision of the ladder was the DNA double helix? In the book of John, Jesus tells Nathanael, he shall see the angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Therefore, is it plausible Jesus was declaring himself to be the ladder? Thanks, Jesse from Indiana.
Well, very interesting question. I never heard it, never thought about it. My first reaction is, I doubt it. The DNA double helix seems to be twisted too badly to ever use as a ladder. I don't know how you could possibly climb such a thing that looked like that. So I would say probably just a normal ladder, but that's a very interesting. Certainly the DNA double helix that the guys discovered the rough analogy of back in the 50s, and now we have a more refined model, which is...
This call is from the San Diego County Sheriff's Office.
Certainly it is an amazing molecule, and obviously all of our genetic code appears to be carried on that thing. So, I must say, I've never heard the question. My first reaction is I doubt that. As far as Jesus being the ladder, that's another interesting thought. Never thought of that one either, and my first reaction is I don't think so, but I'll reread it and think about that one. Thank you for the question.
All right, very, very good. The next question comes in from Christian, and Christian writes, is it true that we should not drink any alcohol? Everybody is doing it. Family, friends. What is the best way for me to tell them to stop? Thank you, Pastor Hovind, Christian.
Well, I don't think it's your responsibility to tell anybody to stop, and I don't think everybody's doing it. I'm not doing it. And even if everybody was doing it, I wouldn't be doing it. If everybody else was sinning, well, Noah's busy building an ark. And can you name any of Noah's neighbors? They all drowned. So it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. I made a decision as a young teenager when I got saved, I'm not going to touch the stuff. And to this day, I've never tasted it other than NyQuil a couple of times. Never tasted alcohol, not going to. Never tasted beer, and I'm not going to. I'm 62. I've lived just fine. I have talked to hundreds and hundreds of people, many in prison. We talk about this topic, and I say, how much money have you spent on that stuff in your lifetime? If you had all that money back, what could you buy? And they say, oh man, I'd buy 5 houses and 10 new cars. And okay, well, why did you drink it then? Why? And they always start off, they say, well, I was with my friends. I say, okay, you can stop right there. I know the story from there. When you get with a dumb friend, you do dumb things. So
you have 60 seconds remaining.
It's a financially stupid decision to drink it. I think certainly there are spiritual implications that most people think Christians shouldn't do it, so it would hinder any soul-winning opportunities. So I don't do it for that reason. Plus, I think it's physically harmful and expensive and a waste of time and a bad testimony. And I would say don't do it, but you do whatever you'd like. Okay, you got more questions, brother?
Yes, sir. We do have more if you have time. We got time for one more.
I do have. I'll call right back.
Okay, very good. All right, Pastor Hovind's going to call back. Please like and subscribe, and let's get the word out. We have 2